to hesitate or to act? That is the question today. Our opening card is the Five of Swords. The challenge that we're working with is the Magician. The way we're going to be getting through the challenge is the Justice card. And the ultimate outcome that we have is the Emperor. I pulled an additional card for us for clarification just because I'm curious. I'm a curious cat. What can I say? And we got the Ten of Pentacles. Interesting stuff today. We had a full moon yesterday, which oddly enough was and is today in conjunction with Pluto that we have over in Capricorn. What's so interesting about that to me, if you caught my description of this orb yesterday, is that when we started this big global shift in January of 2020, it was when we had a huge conjunction, or also known as a stellium, in the sign of Capricorn, all in alignment with Pluto. And right now we have the moon over there with Pluto, but no other planet, right? And in opposition to that, we have the Sun and Mercury, which is interesting because they're over in Cancer, right? At 180 degrees of where Pluto is and the moon. So we're getting this range of perspective and seeing how the last couple of years really impacted our lives, as well as perhaps some attachments that we've been identified with that we need to let go of so that we can actually put our energy and effort in the direction that we are feeling called to move toward. So this opening card today of do I hesitate or do I act is very poignant in our lives. We see this person with 5 swords and they're kind of looking over their shoulder. They have 2 swords in their hand, and there's a few swords in the background on the ground, and a couple of people that have their backs turned to this individual as they're looking over their shoulder. And it's a card about communication and how communication is engaged. It's bringing up that there's some kind of unsettled quality or some situation that we're revisiting again, and it's calling to our attention in regard to, are you going to do something about it, or are you just going to let it go? You know, there's an interesting energy in this. 5s, whenever they show up in the tarot, are this decision point in regard to the direction, because the Roman numeral of 5 is a V, which is very much like choosing one side of the path or another. So there's this decision that we have to make with ourselves in regard to where we put our attention, and if it's continuing to call to us, then perhaps it's asking us to do something about it. The challenge that we have for today came in as the Magician, which, as I foreshadowed a couple of moments ago, is kind of powerful to show up today because this card represents Mercury, which is in a conjunction right now with the Sun. So it's like having the messenger of the gods, aka Mercury, meeting with the god himself, aka the Sun. And so what message is being brought to your essential self? What are you starting to look at differently? What are you learning to speak about a little differently? And where are you feeling really called to act that you see in yourself? The Magician is an interesting character to consider because this person, right, is the number 1 of the major arcana. It's the second major arcana card, but it is the number 1 of the major arcana because the Fool is the 0 card, the first card of the major arcana system. And in the 0, as the quality of the number itself provides, there's potential for all and everything. And in that all and everything, then you have a point, right? Which is a concentration of energy, which would be the number 1, which is full of potential and possibility, which is the Magician. The Magician has these 4 tools that are on their table. They have the sword, the wand, the cup, and the pentacle, all at their disposal to manifest what they feel called to manifest by way of being a conduit, quite literally, in life. And so it's important for us to trust that we have the ability to act and to respond to that, because hesitation can be binding in a lot of ways. And so this card is showing up to remind us that we do have all of the tools, and it's important that we don't engage one tool to discount the power of another, right? It's interesting to me that my full moon rising piece is spinning quite a bit right now as we're in the full moon space. But where do you feel called to act? And do you feel self-sufficient in that place to move forward? This is what we are being challenged with today. And I remind you that a challenge isn't always a bad thing. A challenge is actually a friction that allows something to be created out of it, much like when there's a friction between, flint and wood, or two pieces of wood or two pieces of crystals kind of rubbing against each other. It creates a friction that creates a spark of a potential. So see this challenge as an opportunity that the universe is providing you, and trust that you have all of the tools that you need to do that. The way we're going to get through the challenge came in as the Justice card. This card is associated with Libra, which is pretty interesting. Here's why. In the zodiac wheel, right, there's a circle. And on each anchor of that circle, at each 90-degree angle of it, there's what they call a cardinal sign, which is an active energy of that element, right? It's like the anchoring spoke to this wheel that we have by way of zodiac system. And on those spokes, you have Aries, you have Cancer, you have Libra, and you have Capricorn, right? As these anchoring spokes of this kind of tire iron, I guess, of our zodiac system. And so right now we have Pluto and the moon in Capricorn up top. We have the Sun and Mercury in Cancer down at the bottom. And then we have Jupiter over in Aries, which means that three spokes of this tire iron, so to speak, are accounted for, which leaves the fourth spoke as a point of questioning. And that fourth spoke is the energy of Libra. And that's what showed up today. So if you are familiar with your chart, your natal chart, it has a house that Libra as a sign is sitting in. And that house is telling to the direction or area of your life that is asking for you to put your anchor, to create some kind of balance, because, a three-legged table isn't very balanced unless it's built to be a three-legged table. We have the space for a four-legged table that only has three legs. So we have to put our attention on the fourth leg to create stability, right? And so this is kind of the riddle of the astrological transits and how they invite us to engage our own natal chart to work with what's going on with us in our lives. And if you're not familiar with your natal chart or want to look at that by way of transit, of course, you're welcome to reach out to me and we'll set up some time to make an appointment to do that. But here we have this person who is weighing things very intentionally and also taking a bit of inspiration from the divine by way of determining their actions in life. And so if you find yourself in this space of the Magician, and it's a challenge to consider, if you can actually move forward in the direction that you feel so called to move forward, consider the point of exchange. What do you feel called to bring out into the world that is of quality? And I ask that because the Libra energy is an energy of relationship. And we have to consider ourselves as not this solo unit all the time, but that we're actually in life to be in relationship and in exchange with other beings in the world. The ultimate outcome that we have for today came in as the Emperor, this warrior type energy that Jupiter is sitting in right now. And the warrior goes on to the battlefield, right? The battlefield of life, because they want to bring order into the chaos. They want to manage the situation. They look out the windows of their perception and they see where they're being called to act, and they respond to it by way of an active energy, because this is related to Aries, which is that active fire engaging energy. And we're getting a lot of help in this area because Jupiter is up in Aries. It's bringing a lot of expansion to this space in us in regard to where we feel called to act. And at the same time, consider that the moon, which was bright and full last night, and we're still experiencing the effects of today, is in a square relationship. So it's posing a challenge. So we can't unsee that which we are observing right now. And I would suggest that if you are feeling called to act, now is definitely the time to do so. That card of clarity that I pulled for us is the 10 of Pentacles. So this is an energetic of crystallized materiality, or kind of getting a more condensed picture of where we're going in life and what we are trying to create. It's also an energy of positivity in regard to the material question. And yet it's something that I always have to remind people when they see this card, because they're like, oh, good, that's great, everything will be fine. It will be, but it takes work and it takes effort to do it. And if you don't make that step to move in that direction, then you'll never get there, right? Being able to reach a pinnacle in life isn't a effort that has a finality to it. It's something that we continuously pursue to hold the space for it and to continue to nurture it so it can hold that space for as long as it can. You know, it's like if I were to get an aim in my life to climb that mountain right there, I have to make sure that I'm prepared to do so, and I have to be prepared for whatever comes into my path if that is my aim, and not be discouraged if a tree falls in my path or a river washes out my path or any of these things, because my goal is enough to carry me over that terrain and through any weather or storm that the environment is bringing into my life. And too often, my friends and clients will get in this mind space of, you know, if the limb fell in my path, then, you know, fate doesn't want me to go there. And I think that's a silly perspective to engage in life with, because if we can take a few steps back, we can see that our greatest triumphs in life is when we overcame something that fell in our path. So don't be discouraged. Keep forging ahead and keep trusting that that inner calling that keeps coming back to you is a really valuable and precious thing to continue to nurture and put your energy and effort toward. So act with the effort of your heart behind it. I send you all a good wish and so much love, and I hope that this full moon gave you a lot of clarity, because it has done so for me. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Mwah.